On a cold February evening in 2006, 22-year-old Lacey Whitmore vanished, somewhere between a roadside gas station and a rain-slicked forest highway outside Grayhaven, Oregon. Her car was found still idling. Her phone lay in the passenger seat. There were no footprints, no struggle, no trace. Before we begin, I want to let you know that due to the limited visual materials and the age of this case, there isn't much existing footage or imagery to support the story you're about to hear. Because of that, this episode will be accompanied by a single image background throughout. Think of this as more of an immersive audio experience, a storytelling session that lets your imagination fill in the gaps. Now's the perfect time to grab your headphones, maybe even some popcorn, and settle in. We'll begin in just 5 seconds. Grayhaven is the kind of place people drive through, but rarely remember. A stretch of town framed by towering pines and shrouded in near-constant mist. Nestled just off U.S. Route 26 and surrounded by the shadowy ridges of the Tillamook State Forest. It's quiet, remote, the kind of quiet that feels like it's watching you. In the early 2000s, Grayhaven was home to just over 3,000 residents, loggers, forest rangers, and families who had lived on the same land for generations. The closest city, Portland, lay over an hour to the east. Beyond the last streetlight, the road faded into darkness, and with it, any sense of modern safety. Lacey Whitmore was one of town's few young adults still living there. At 22, she worked part-time at the local library and took online courses in social work. Her friends described her as grounded, introverted, and deeply empathetic. Someone who never raised her voice, never made enemies, and always kept her promises. Lacey was known for her love of old books and the outdoors, often spending weekends hiking the forest trails that line the outskirts of town. Her parents, Harold and Denise Whitmore, were longtime residents of Grayhaven. Harold was a retired forestry officer, and Denise worked at a nearby elementary school. Their only daughter had never given them cause for worry until February 10th, 2006. It was a Friday, cold, drizzly, and quiet. The kind of evening where most folks in Grayhaven stayed home with their doors locked and their curtains drawn, according to security footage and witness accounts. Lacey left her shift at the library around 5:45 p.m. She was seen stopping by the Shell station on Route 19, just a few miles west of town, at approximately 6:12 p.m. Cameras captured her pulling into the station, filling up her car, and walking inside to purchase a bottle of water and a pack of gum. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She smiled politely at the clerk and exited at 6:18 p.m. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lacey Whitmore. Roughly 20 minutes later, a passing motorist called 911 to report an abandoned vehicle near mile marker 184 on the same highway, only 12 miles west of the gas station. The caller described a navy blue 1999 Toyota Corolla, sitting partially on the shoulder. Its driver's side door closed, but the engine still running. The car's headlights were on, and the hazard lights were blinking. When deputies from the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office arrived at the scene at 7:01 p.m., they found Lacey's car just as the caller described. Inside the vehicle were a purse, phone, and car keys. The driver's seat was adjusted for someone of her height. There were no signs of forced entry, no blood, and no immediate indication of foul play. Deputies noted that the car had a nearly full tank of gas. Her phone, which sat screen up in the passenger seat, had 72% battery remaining. There were no outgoing calls or messages since she left the gas station. But Lacey was gone. A search of the surrounding area was initiated within the hour. Volunteers, tracking dogs, and thermal imaging drones were deployed over the next 48 hours. The dense, rain-soaked forest made search conditions difficult. Mud, overgrowth, and sharp elevation changes hindered efforts. Dogs picked up a faint scent trail that led toward a nearby trailhead, Crater's Bend Trail, but abruptly vanished just half a mile in. No clothing, no tracks, no belongings were ever recovered. By Sunday evening, the search was officially scaled back. Locals began whispering almost immediately. Some said Lacey had been planning to leave town. Others suggested she'd met someone online, but her laptop and digital records showed no such activity. Investigators thoroughly examined her phone and internet history, but nothing unusual turned up. No messages, no burner numbers, no evidence of plans or secret meetings. Detectives from the Oregon State Police Missing Persons Unit case hashtag or 06-1182W later stated that Lacey's last known communications were with her mother, an innocuous exchange about dinner plans the next week, and a text to a close friend that simply read, "See you tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. What made Lacey's case especially chilling wasn't just a lack of clues. It was the stillness that followed. Her social media remained untouched. Her bank account froze. Her scent, once strong enough for trained dogs to follow, dissipated without explanation. There were no reports of hitchhikers, no suspicious persons, and no strange vehicle spotted in the area that evening. And yet, something had taken her. The location of the abandoned vehicle raised eyebrows, too. While technically not isolated, mile marker 184 was in a stretch of road bordered by thick, unpatrolled woodland and minimal lighting. Locals often avoided the area at night. Some described a heaviness there, a quiet that pressed in from all sides. The only notable landmark nearby was the overgrown ruins of Black Hollow Campground, shut down in 1987 after a string of unexplained animal attacks. Authorities considered every theory: foul play, voluntary disappearance, accident, abduction, yet none fit seamlessly. If someone had taken her by force, how did they leave no trace? If she had walked into the woods, why leave her phone and wallet behind? And if she'd vanished of her own will, why choose such a strange, remote place to do it? Interviews with those closest to her painted a picture of a woman who was content, if somewhat restless. Lacey had spoken to a few friends about traveling in the spring. She'd been interested in visiting the Pacific coast, maybe even transferring to a school in Eugene. But there was nothing impulsive or reckless in her behavior. She paid her bills. She made plans. She showed up when she said she would. The media coverage came in waves, first local, then regional. Flyers were posted across northern Oregon. Her parents held vigils. Her name was added to the National Missing Persons Registry, and episodes of regional true crime segments briefly covered her case. But like the fog that settles in Grayhaven and then fades with the morning sun, public interest dwindled. Leads dried up, and the trail went cold. In 2014, 8 years after her disappearance, a backpack was found roughly 3 miles from the original search radius. It had been partially buried in moss and soil, discovered by a hiker off a game trail. Inside were moldy notebooks, a torn rain jacket, and a pair of prescription glasses. Forensic testing confirmed the glasses belonged to Lacey, but nothing else inside the bag could definitively be linked to her. There were no fingerprints, no DNA other than her own. Investigators noted the location was difficult to reach, even for experienced hikers. The area was combed once again. Nothing else was recovered. By 2018, the case was quietly archived as inactive, not closed, but dormant, periodically reviewed but with no new evidence to pursue. Today, her parents still live in the same house near the edge of town. A framed photo of Lacey sits on the mantel, her smile frozen in time, a hopeful glimmer in her eyes that never fades. Her room remains untouched. Her belongings are dusted every week. Locals say you can still see the spot where a car was found, an unmarked pull-off of a missing guardrail, now overtaken by vines. Some passers-by leave flowers there. Others say they avoid it entirely. There are those in Grayhaven who believe something else happened to Lacey, something not bound by ordinary explanation. They speak of strange noises in the woods, lights that flicker in the trees, a silence that isn't empty, but watching, the same silence that swallowed her whole. Whether it was a crime, a choice, or something stranger, Lacey Whitmore's story remains one of the most haunting, unsolved cases in Oregon's history. A woman who seemed to simply vanish, leaving behind only questions, only silence. And yet, nearly 2 decades later, whispers of her story still drift through the fog. In Grayhaven, they say some trails never really end, they just disappear. February 10th, 2006, timeline of events. 5:42 p.m., Grayhaven Public Library, downtown Grayhaven. Lacey Whitmore clocked out of her shift at the Grayhaven Public Library. Surveillance footage shows her exiting the building wearing a slate gray raincoat, jeans, and brown hiking boots. A navy blue backpack hangs from her right shoulder. Weather reports indicate it was a light drizzle, 42 degrees, overcast, with fog pockets forming in lower elevations. Staff describe her as quiet, but in good spirits. According to co-worker Janine Rowley, Lacey had mentioned she was planning to go home, maybe stop for gas, and then drive up the ridge for some alone time before dinner. This wasn't out of the ordinary. Lacey was known to take drives into forested backroads to unwind. 6:12 p.m., Shell gas station on Route 19. A camera mounted behind the cash register captured Lacey's arrival at the Shell station west of town. She pulled up to pump number 3 in her 1999 Toyota Corolla and filled her tank. Transaction records confirm a $23.44 debit card payment at 6:14 p.m. At 6:16 p.m.,
she entered the convenience store and purchased a bottle of Dasani water and a pack of cinnamon gum. The clerk's records list the transaction as processed at 6:18 p.m. The clerk, Mark Donovan, later told investigators that she seemed calm, maybe a little tired. She smiled briefly, didn't make small talk, and left the store without delay. This was the last confirmed sighting of Lacey Whitmore. 6:54 p.m., mile marker 184, Forest Highway. A passing motorist named Carla Estrada called 911 to report a vehicle pulled awkwardly onto the shoulder of Highway 6, just past mile marker 184. In the call, she stated, "There's a little blue car on the side of the road, the engine's running, and the hazards are blinking. Looks empty. I didn't see anyone." Carla described the scene as unsettling, noting that the vehicle wasn't fully off the road. She assumed it had broken down, but when she slowed to check, she saw no one inside or nearby. 7:01 p.m., first officer on scene. Deputy Mason LeClaire from the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office arrived at the location. He found the Corolla in neutral, engine running, doors locked. The hazard lights were flashing. It had not been reported stolen. Looking through the window, he spotted a gray coat on the passenger seat, along with a black smartphone, a small leather purse, and an unopened bottle of water. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, blood, or personal items scattered nearby. He requested a tow and ran the plates. The vehicle was registered to Denise and Harold Whitmore. Dispatch contacted the parents at 7:29 p.m. They were stunned. Lacey wasn't due home until later, but the presence of her car, unattended and running, immediately set off alarm bells. 7:45 p.m., parents arrive on scene. Harold and Denise arrived in a rush. Denise reportedly shouted Lacey's name repeatedly and tried to unlock the passenger door before being stopped by deputies. After confirming the car was indeed Lacey's, both parents were taken aside. Harold requested that police search the nearby woods immediately. A quick canvass of the immediate 500 feet of roadside turned up nothing. No footprints, drag marks, or signs of movement in or out of the forest line. By 9 p.m., the vehicle was impounded for forensic examination. The engine was turned off by law enforcement, and the vehicle was sealed. February 11, 2006, search initiated. At 7:30 a.m., a coordinated search began. The Tillamook County Sheriff's Office, alongside local volunteers, K-9 units, and the Oregon Search and Rescue Task Force, began combing the area surrounding mile marker 184. Crater's Bend Trail, a poorly maintained hiking path, ran parallel to highway for approximately 2 miles and was included in the search zone. Dogs briefly picked up a scent roughly 800 yards into the forest, but it vanished at a rocky incline. Conditions were poor, mud, steep terrain, and fog hampered visibility. By the afternoon, search perimeters expanded to include nearby logging roads and abandoned campsites, including Black Hollow Campground. That area had been closed since the 1980s, but remained accessible via overgrown trails. Deputies interviewed travelers and truckers who passed through the area that evening. No one recalled seeing a person walking along the road or signaling for help. February 12 to 15, 2006, evidence or lack thereof. Forensics from a vehicle, case file, or 06-1182, No fingerprints aside from Lacey's on the steering wheel, door handles, or interior. No blood, hair, or fibers were inconsistent with her own. Her phone contained no recent calls, texts, or browsing activity after 5:43 p.m. Last phone unlock, 6:20 p.m. A half-written draft message, never sent, was found in her Notes app. It's darker than I thought. Might turn back. Cell tower data showed her phone briefly pinged a tower near mile marker 184 at 6:48 p.m. After that, it went idle. It was not turned off, just unused. No further pings occurred until it was collected by law enforcement. Her purse contained her ID, debit card, and a folded library event flyer. Theories and red herrings. As investigators dug deeper, 2 points of interest emerged. 1. The mysterious white sedan. 2 separate witnesses reported seeing a white sedan parked on a turnout a few hundred yards east of mile marker 184 between 6:30 and 7 p.m. One described it as an older model Lexus or Toyota, possibly with tinted windows. Another said they saw a figure standing beside it, though they couldn't determine gender or age. A bulletin was issued for information about the vehicle, but no one came forward. Dash cam footage from a delivery truck passing through at 6:57 p.m. captured the outline of a white vehicle partially obscured by trees. The image was grainy and unusable for plate identification. 2. The Cody D. message thread. During a digital audit of Lacey's accounts, investigators discovered a private message thread with a user named Cody D on a now-defunct forum related to nature photography. Their conversations were mostly benign, discussing trail recommendations and camera gear. The last message from Cody D was dated January 24th and simply read, "Still up for that hike near Crater's Bend?" Authorities tried to trace the user, but the email user registered the account was encrypted and routed through a proxy. The IP was traced back to a public library in Tacoma, Washington. No further messages were exchanged. It remains unclear whether this Cody D ever met Lacey in person. Family reaction. Denise Whitmore quickly became the public voice of the family. Appearing on local TV and radio, she pleaded for help. If anyone saw something, anything, please come forward. Lacey would never just walk away. Harold remained behind the scenes, reportedly spending his days driving the stretch of highway where she disappeared, checking trailheads and talking to loggers, hikers, and rangers. Friends organized vigils and flyer campaigns. Posters were stapled to telephone poles, pinned in gas stations, and distributed as far east as Portland. Despite the media's best efforts, national attention waned within 2 weeks. There were no dramatic twists, no ransom calls, no surveillance footage of her leaving town. Local rumors. In a town like Grayhaven, silence breeds speculation. Some locals believe Lacey had stumbled upon something illegal, perhaps a hidden drug cache in the woods. Others whisper about the nearby forest being cursed, recalling other disappearances decades prior, none of which were ever formally linked. One theory pointed to an ex-boyfriend from high school who had recently returned to town. He was questioned but had an airtight alibi. He'd been in Bend, Oregon, for a work seminar that entire weekend. Still, rumors persisted. A local drifter named Mike Crater, Bledsoe became a person of interest after allegedly telling another transit at shelter that he'd seen the girl from the flyers. Police located him and brought him in for questioning. Bledsoe claimed he'd only meant he saw her face on TV. He was released after no connection could be verified. Another red herring. Official response in the road to nowhere. By late February, the case had gone cold. The Tillamook County Sheriff's Office issued the following statement. All known leads have been pursued. At this time, we continue to encourage public assistance in locating Lacey Whitmore. This remains an active missing person investigation. Internally, the case was marked as unresolved, pending further leads. Despite Lacey's disappearance occurring within a tight window and high-traffic corridor, the complete lack of physical evidence remains one of the most baffling aspects to investigators. She did not appear suicidal. She was not reckless. She had no history of running away or leaving things undone. Everything, her digital footprint, her habits, her schedule, simply stopped. The unseen end. To this day, no arrests have been made. No remains have been recovered. No reliable sightings have ever been confirmed. Lacey Whitmore's name remains etched into Oregon's long ledger of unresolved disappearances, a haunting echo in the mist that never quite clears. And yet, 8 months later, a hunter deep in the forest made a discovery, one that would crack the silence wide open. When 23-year-old Lacey Whitmore vanished on the shoulder of Highway 6 on a mist-heavy evening in February 2006, it sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Grayhaven. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't troubled. She was simply gone. A car left idling, a phone untouched, no witnesses. And despite an intensive investigation, endless search efforts, and a trail of questions, nothing ever led definitively to a cause, a suspect, or a conclusion. What remains now are theories, each one echoing through the fog with just enough weight to be plausible, but none with the evidence to bring answers. Let's examine them. Theory 1, the opportunistic abduction. This is a theory most heavily pursued by law enforcement during the initial weeks of the investigation. From the outset, the clues suggested a sudden interruption, something that caused Lacey to stop or be stopped and pulled from the scene without resistance. The details paint a chilling portrait. Lacey had just filled her gas tank and was headed to Crater's Bend Ridge, a known but remote spot where she often took photos or hiked short trails. That area, while beautiful, is also a haven for opportunistic crime. Sparse traffic, no streetlights, and poor cell reception create the perfect environment for someone with bad intentions. The white sedan. Several motorists reported seeing an older white sedan parked near the turnout that same night. 2 witnesses claimed they saw a figure standing by the vehicle, but couldn't identify gender or actions due to darkness and mist. Law enforcement never found the car, nor anyone who could explain its presence. It remains the most tangible clue in the case. Could Lacey have pulled over because she felt she was being followed? Could the car have posed as a vehicle in distress, luring her into stopping? Some believe the position of her own car is telling. It wasn't fully off the road, as if she had stopped in a hurry. The engine was running, doors locked, hazard lights blinking. The phone was left behind. The water bottle she just purchased remained unopened. Whatever happened, happened fast. No signs of a struggle, no screams reported, no damage to the car. If someone was watching her route or had been trailing her for days, it could have been an abduction that lasted no more than a minute. Theories within the theory. Human trafficking. Some investigators briefly explored the possibility of Lacey being targeted for trafficking, though it remained speculative. There were no clear ties, and no similar cases were reported nearby at that time. The Cody D. account. The mysterious online user who exchanged messages with Lacey weeks before her disappearance was never identified. The final message asked if she was still up for that hike. Was it a trap? Did she unknowingly arrange to meet a predator? But again, no forensics, no communication after that last library shift. If it was an abduction, it was clean. Too clean. Theory 2, a voluntary disappearance. To those closest to Lacey, this theory feels like a betrayal. But it's one the authorities were obligated to investigate, especially once the forensics turned up so little. There's no indication that Lacey was unhappy. She lived with her parents, but had plans to move into her place that summer. She worked at the library, volunteered at the community center on weekends, and was set to graduate with her literature degree in the fall. Friends describe her as quietly happy, not exuberant but peaceful. Still, some question whether Lacey may have been masking deeper feelings. She often wandered into nature alone, sometimes for hours. In her journals, which were reviewed by her parents and law enforcement with a warrant, there were passages hinting at isolation, introspection, and a need to disappear from a noise. One particularly haunting entry from January 2006 read, "I wonder how long it would take for people to notice if I just walked into the trees and kept going. The quiet always feels like home." Investigators found no travel records, no large cash withdrawals, and no secondary phone or email accounts. But that doesn't mean she didn't prepare. It's possible that Lacey, an avid reader of wilderness survival memoirs and minimalist philosophies, had carefully planned her exit. The problem with this theory is its execution. Disappearances like this often leave some trace. A note, a goodbye, a bank record, a camera sighting. Lacey left nothing, not even footprints. Could she have arranged to be picked up by someone she trusted? Could she have wandered into the forest, intending never to return? And if so, why? Theory 3. The forest took her. While law enforcement does not consider this a viable angle, some in Grayhaven whisper about a more unnatural explanation. A theory born not from forensics, but from fear. The region surrounding Highway 6 and Crater's Bend has a history. Locals recall the disappearance of a boy named Eli Jensen in 1979, lost while camping with his uncle. No body was found. In 1988, 2 sisters vanished from the same corridor. Foul play was suspected but never proven. Each case shares one trait: proximity to the same 6-mile stretch of dense woodland. The terrain there is deceptively treacherous: ravines, caves, animal dens. But to those who lived in Grayhaven long enough, the woods have a darker name: the Still Path. That's what old logging crews called it, because in parts of that forest, the wind dies, the birds fall silent, and even the trees seem to lean toward the road. There are no official maps that show it, but urban legends persist. Stories of the Echo Man who walks the ridgeline, of campers who go missing only to return days later with no memory, or of distant voices calling your name deep in the pines. Rational minds dismiss this as folklore, product of isolation, imagination, and fear. But others wonder, was Lacey drawn off the road by something she saw, or something she heard? Could she have slipped down an embankment, fallen, or simply gotten lost? And if so, why haven't searchers found any trace? Clothing? Jewelry? Remains? The K-9 units followed her scent for nearly a mile into the woods before it vanished on a rock shelf. No blood, no trail. It was as if she evaporated. Additional clues unresolved. The drafted message. The unfinished message in Lacey's phone remains one of the strangest pieces of evidence. It's darker than I thought. Might turn back. Was she texting a friend, a journal entry, or simply making a note for herself? Why wasn't it sent? Was it interrupted? The Hunter's discovery, October 2006. 8 months later, a hunter discovered what appeared to be a woman's hiking boot and tattered gray fabric partially buried under leaves near a dry creek bed, approximately 3 miles from where Lacey's car was found. DNA testing on the boot later confirmed it was Lacey's, but that discovery led nowhere else. No additional remains, no personal items, no signs of a campsite or fall. The creek bed had likely seen seasonal flooding, making it impossible to determine how or when the boot arrived there. Did she get lost and succumb to the elements? Did someone take her deeper into the woods? Or was the boot planted there as a cruel misdirection? The lingering questions. With no suspect, no final clue, and no closure, the disappearance of Lacey Whitmore remains an active missing persons case. File or 06-1182W. Over 15 years later, law enforcement continues to receive sporadic tips, though none have yielded credible leads. To this day, her face remains on the Oregon Missing Persons database. Her parents still attend annual vigils. Her room remains untouched. We may never know if Lacey walked away or was taken, whether her last thoughts were freedom, fear, or something we can't quite understand. But the question echoes louder than ever. What do you think happened to Lacey Whitmore? Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. For more content relating to horrors and missing cases, subscribe to the channel. And remember, some disappearances never let you sleep easily.